James Walker sat behind the wheel of his sleek black Lincoln MKZ, cruising down a quiet road. It had been an exhausting day, packed with endless meetings and stacks of paperwork.
But tonight?
Tonight was different. He was on his way to the estate of Mayor Richard Davis, an old friend and trusted ally from his years in the FBI. The mayor had invited him over for a private dinner, a rare occasion for James, who had never been much of a socialite. As he neared the turnoff leading to the mayor's grand mansion, the sudden flash of red and blue lights filled his rearview mirror. A siren blared. James frowned. He hadn't broken any laws, so why was he being pulled over? With a steady hand, he signaled and brought the car to a stop at the side of the road, lowering his window just slightly, waiting for the officer to approach. A young officer, early 30s, tall, well-built, stepped out of the patrol car. His expression was hard, unreadable. No greeting. No explanation. Just a curt demand. License and registration. James remained calm. May I ask why I've been stopped? The officer's eyes flickered over James's vehicle, as if scanning for something suspicious. Plates are from out of town. Need to check unfamiliar vehicles, he replied, his tone sharp. James's brow furrowed. His car was legally registered. He had followed every traffic law. This was unnecessary. I haven't broken any laws, he said firmly. The officer didn't respond, just crossed his arms and met James with a challenging glare. Just hand over your papers.
Now.
James's patience was wearing thin. I'm sorry, officer, but I don't see a valid reason for this stop. Something changed in the officer's demeanor. His gaze darkened, his body language turned rigid, aggressive. I said, give me your papers. The sharp edge in his voice carried an unspoken threat. James could feel the tension thickening in the air. This wasn't just a routine check. There was something more to it. I'm not handing over anything unless you tell me why I've been stopped, he said, his voice level but unwavering. The officer's lips curled into a sneer. His next words came slow, deliberate, filled with something cold and ugly. You think you can question me just because you're FBI? His tone dripped with disdain. You're still just another black man on these streets. James felt the words hit harder than expected. He had dealt with racism before. But this was different. This wasn't just hostility. This was deep-seated prejudice staring him in the face. His pulse quickened, but he kept his composure. You have no right to talk to me like that, he said, his voice calm but firm. I've done nothing wrong. The officer, his badge read Mike Johnson, let out a low, derisive chuckle. Oh, I know exactly who you are. He took a step closer. Think that badge means anything out here? Not on my turf. His voice turned into a growl. Now, hand over your papers. Or I'll make you. James held his ground, his expression unreadable. You're making a mistake, he warned. I won't be intimidated. Johnson's face flushed with anger. His fingers twitched at his side. You think I'm intimidated by you, Hulls? His voice rose as he stepped even closer, fists clenched. I'm in charge here. James didn't flinch. I'm telling you, stop, he warned, his tone low and steady. Your actions are crossing a line. You're going to regret this. Before James could say another word, Johnson's face twisted with rage. Get out of the car, he barked. Louder this time. James froze. He had done nothing to justify being ordered out, but his instincts screamed at him. This was a dangerous situation. He had to handle it carefully. No, he said evenly. I haven't broken any laws. Johnson's anger peaked. Without hesitation, he yanked his gun from its holster, aiming it directly at James. His voice trembled, not with fear, but with fury. Get out of the car, or I'll make you. The air turned thick with tension. James could feel his heart hammering in his chest, but his face remained unreadable. Slowly, he reached for the door handle and pushed it open, raising his hands in a controlled movement. I'm getting out, he said steadily, but don't make this worse. Johnson didn't lower his weapon.
Kneel. Now.
James exhaled slowly, feeling the weight of the moment. He knew better than to argue. With measured precision, he lowered himself onto one knee, keeping his eyes locked on the officer. He could sense the rage boiling inside Johnson. "I'm telling you, you're making a mistake," James said, his voice quiet but firm. Johnson sneered. "A mistake?" His lips curled into something twisted, something ugly. "The only mistake is letting people like you walk around here." James clenched his jaw. He refused to let anger get the better of him. The officer was already too far gone. His hatred had poisoned his judgment. From where he knelt, James could see the police lights flashing against the pavement, the distant crackle of the radio filling the silence. But it all felt far away, like he was trapped in another world. "Why are you doing this?" James asked, his voice softer now, trying to find some sliver of reason in the officer's eyes. "What did I do to deserve this?" Johnson didn't answer right away. His face contorted, his grip tightening on the gun. "You people think you can just waltz around like you own the place," he spat. "I don't care who you are. You're nothing but trouble." James felt his gut twist. This had never been about a traffic stop. This was about something much darker, an abuse of power fueled by deep-rooted hate. James's voice was steady when he spoke. "Officer," he said carefully, "you're making a big mistake. There are consequences for what you're doing." For a split second, Johnson hesitated. A flicker of doubt passed through his eyes. The gun trembled slightly in his grip. James saw it, saw the internal battle. But then, just as quickly, the officer's face hardened. "Don't lecture me," Johnson snapped. "You're nothing but a thug in a suit." His sneer deepened. "I told you to stay down." James had reached his limit. His patience was gone. "I am not a criminal," he said, his voice cool, resolute. "And I won't be treated like one." Johnson's expression darkened at the defiance in James's tone. His eyes narrowed, burning with unchecked rage. "You're going to regret that." Then, Johnson took a step back, his fingers curling around the gun's grip. The metal gleamed under the streetlights as he leveled it directly at James's chest. Time slowed. James's instincts screamed at him, "Move, react, do something." But he stayed still, keeping his hands raised, refusing to give Johnson an excuse. The officer's breath was unsteady, his pulse visible in his neck. He was trembling now, overwhelmed by his own fury. James knew this feeling. He had seen it before. But never like this. Never when he was the target. Johnson's voice was ice cold. "I'm telling you for the last time, get on your feet." James didn't move. He couldn't. Any wrong action would set everything off. "Okay," James finally said, his voice calm, unwavering. "I'll get up. But you need to lower the gun." For a long, tense moment, Johnson just stared at him, fingers tight around the trigger. The air between them was charged, dangerous. This wasn't about control anymore. This was about something far worse.